clear. I have the show notes chat open, so I'll receive the notification there via WhatsApp. And looks like the stream is broadcasting. I'm going to go ahead and give it a moment to let it breathe. Wholeness and balance vibrations, everyone. Okay, seems like everything's broadcasting well. We're going to go ahead and begin, and we should be live now. Wholeness and Balance Vibrations family, and thank you so much for taking the time and the opportunity to jump in here today. It is for sure episode 4. This is the Keymakers, and we're here to do something amazing again as we continuously circle into what we're experiencing in this reality. We look deeper into the synchronicities that we're all having. And we also bring in a brand new lens, a new metaphysical lens that we can begin to look deeper into not only our lives, but the lives of those around us in order to gain a greater level of communication and get a better understanding of exactly who we are. I'm here today with 8 panelists that are here to actually deliver a very, very special message in their own unique way. And before I introduce them, first I'm going to talk about just a few resources that you'll be able to use in order to get you a little bit more aware of exactly what eniology is, why we use it, and how it can assist you every single day in making decisions accurately. We have a saying that if you go with the current of the cosmos, then you don't have to engage your motor. This means that in many effects in life that we end up either trying to catch up or trying to slow down and just trying to keep pace. But if we're on the current, because we're going to eventually visit every place, it actually allows you to be able to really relax into yourself. I talk about when does the warrior take off their armor? When are they able to relax? This is the time when you're moving with the cosmos because everything is in balance. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a few resources that you'll be able to use in order to find information on eniology and do a deep dive for yourself when you get the opportunity. First, I'll make mention of on the Secret Energy website, which you should be seeing on your screen right now. This is www.secretenergy.com. You only need to navigate here to the right menu. And when you click on the right menu, you can come down to this setting here that is called Cosmic Energy. When you click on that setting, you'll then be navigated to this page. And this page is actually designed to give you information every single day of the week of the energy that's coming through, the colors that are associated with that energy, and many specifics. So for instance, if I tap here on Sunday, which is the eniology number 1, we find the colors related to Sunday, the elements related to Sunday, the herbs, the plants, the chakras, and many other itemizations are what we call resonances. The reason why this is so important is because if you're aligning yourself with the energy of the day, then nothing can really stop you. And this also allows you to begin to coordinate your days with cosmic energy, so that way you actually visit your whole body, you actually visit every aspect of your consciousness, and this helps in staying balanced. Our body is full of numerous amounts of organisms that all need our attention. We call it the personal kingdom, and whatever you do in your personal kingdom, if you're a good ruler, if you're a good judge, if you're a very good ally and parent, etc., to your body, then you will inherit that externally. I also credit the number one reason why most people are experiencing such trauma in the reality right now is because they've let go of themselves and they've gone into paying attention to things externally, which actually projects what is an illusion. When you try to change things from the outside versus trying to change them within, then you actually never get any results if you're just doing that from the outside. So we always encourage a person to go inward, learn these amazing things about yourself, and then you'll come into a greater level of alignment. So you can always follow these links here every single day if you wish in order to actually jump into this. Secret Energy also does have a chat. And in that chat, we actually share this information generally every day. So if someone can drop the link for the Secret Energy Telegram chat, which we've moved out of Discord, then you can actually join everyone there. That's also just a part of the tribe that is in Secret Energy. Also, you have another resource here at Anyology.com. And Anyology.com is where we are parking a great deal of the information that we've acquired in relation to Anyology here. And so you'll have an opportunity to go to the site and actually learn a bit more. This is like our splash page and gives you more awareness about what Anyology is. Also, each person has their own respective path, so you can determine your path, as we'll talk about today, by adding up the numbers of the days that you were born on, and then simplifying that number in order to know your path. So in this instance, I was born on the 22nd, so that means that my number would be 2 plus 2, which is 4. It's already simplified for me. If I was born on the 19th, my number would be 1 plus 9, which is 10, and then to simplify it, I would say 1 plus 0 is 1. And this actually does the trick. It actually really allows us to be able to dial in. It seems that the cosmos has always been into alignment with the days of the week and what is projecting through this lens of Earth. And so when you know your number, you also get a chance to know your path. Now, how we also do this in relation to answering questions is there's a lot of questions. We all have questions on the quest, as I always say. However, it helps when someone answers that question more specifically. We're all unique, and so the closest we can get to a unique solution for how we're experiencing the situation, the better. I will also say that this is also why Enealogy is so imperative to use in these times, because there's a plethora of information. I say that it's virtually an information deluge. And because of that, you can get drowned in information and not really know what applies to you, what doesn't apply to you, what you should be doing now, what you should follow. And it is that confusion that we find generally the spiritual dogmatic world in right now. So to clarify yourself from that confusion, it's better to actually begin to learn specific things, mainly about yourself, and then use that template in order to understand others. So once you understand yourself, then you'll actually be able to understand others that are around you and actually form a real bond in communication. Lastly, I also want to give some big thanks out to Laura Fandino and also Kayla. These are two beautiful sisters that took in to themselves the opportunity beginning last week, to start to make notations of what is talked about here while we're answering questions. I hope that the Keymakers is a long-running series, and so in that time, we're going to give many solutions to problems that many of the beings that are with us are experiencing. But it's not just enough to keep that information on an audio track somewhere, especially if that audio is 2 hours long. And so we've made an additional effort and actually place this information in a specific place in help docs. And hopefully in the future, it becomes so large, it becomes the extreme assistance for those who actually have specific questions and don't have time to go through all of the videos and actually figure out where those questions have been answered, even though you can also use real search to search through our videos, but I'll get into that another time. If you actually are looking for the support docs, you would actually go to support.secretenergy.com. Again, I'll take a moment. That is support.secretenergy.com, and it'll actually pull up our entire help docs section. Here, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see before Hydrolux, actually not to the bottom, somewhere in the center, you'll see the Enealogy knowledge base. So when you click on the Enealogy knowledge base, you will then get the questions that were asked. Here we populated last show's questions. Again, thanks Laura and thanks Kayla. And we've placed these questions here under the specific path. We also don't think we made a numerical mistake when we order these. It says 1, 2, 9. And again, this is really dialing you into the exact numeric sequence of the energy. It doesn't go 1, 2, 3. But if you don't know what that means, I'm not going to elaborate on it right now. You have enealogy to study for yourself and figure more out about it. And if you need some assistance, at the stage that we're at now, we are doing a big deep dive into enealogy in our group. And so you can always go to the website. You can always go to the right menu, or excuse me, the left menu in this case, and you would go to courses. And inside of courses, you'll actually find ambassador training. And when you enroll into ambassador training with all the ambassadors, we're actually doing a deep dive into enealogy, where each of us are a reflection of these numbers. This is also why you'll see numbers under our names from time to time inside of groups and things. And this is because we've made a special effort with each other to become what we feel are the mirrors of each other, but at a different angle. So if I know a person is a 4, if I know they're a 7, etc., then I'll work in learning more about myself and learning more about them to communicate with them in the time and the form and the fashion in which they like to be communicated to. So if you want to get into a deeper dive with learning how to communicate with others through enealogy, you would actually enroll in Sovereignty Mentorship, which is here on the left. Also, if you're dealing with a financial situation at this moment and you just want to taste into sovereignty and what we've created, you can actually join specialist training absolutely free here. And it will give you the beginning of how we came about into realizing that we needed to embark on this Sovereignty 2020 together. And this is already, I believe, 2 years and some change in running. And it's been an amazing adventure. We even got together last Friday and, well, I guess that's 2 days ago, and had another powerful insight. So always stuff happening inside of ambassador training. If you have the opportunity, we welcome you in joining. So now I'm going to do that special deed, and I'm going to go ahead and bring on the Keymakers right now, Wholeness Keymakers. It's great to see you today. It's, again, another beautiful Sunday. We're actually going in. The moon is on the wane. I feel really relaxed. It feels like that, especially after our meditations together and this co-creative energy, that we got the opportunity to at least reach a plateau with all the energetics that are moving through. Of course, there's a craze out there going on, but we are the calm in the storm. We're operating in the gap, and we are masters of the flux. And because of that, we actually want to do something. We've already fulfilled that first internal mission, which is yourself. The biggest mission in life is you. And as we've gone through that mission with self, worked on the cleansing, worked on getting our consciousness into the proper balance, we've now come out to fulfill another aspect of who we are, and that's being able, like fruit, to give our abundance to others because it comes in abundance. It's a wellspring. So that's what the Keymakers are here to do. Each here is on different paths. Some of us are actually on the same path, but we also have experience. And there's always information about the Keymakers generally in the description. So if you see a Keymaker, you really want to get into it a little bit more, learn a little bit more about who they are, then information will be in the description. If it's not in there now, it will be when the show goes from the live into the archive. So how we do this is you ask a question, we give you the answer. But before you ask a question, we actually ask you to do the math, if you may, on your own path. And so this means that you'll take your day of birth, again, just the day that you were born on, you'll add it together and you'll come up with the number. So you'll type question and then the number. So if I was a number 4, I'd type question and then I'd type the number 4. And then I would ask my question. And again, the reason why we do that is because each Keymaker here has a specialty generally in a specific number. And so rather than all of us talking at once, we all talk as one. And that means through one mouthpiece that's actually more what we feel is qualified to answer that specific question. Okay. And obviously, we're doing our best. That is our disclaimer here. So everything that is being said is said from the heart. We cannot disconnect from the heart. Every single being here is connected through the heart on the planetary system. So we use the heart as our communicative component in doing our best. This also means, though, that if something doesn't resonate with you, if something actually has to be what I would say is dissolved a bit more into your consciousness before you find the truth in it, that is fine. It's like a buffet here. You can take what it is that you like and leave the rest for others who may be coming back around because that's what that may work for them. So before, there's actually one question in here now, but before we dial into just that question, now you can actually start beginning to place those questions inside the chat. Our moderators are actually there, Wholeness and Balance Vibrations moderators and pillars. Thank you so much for holding the space. And it gets wild in the chat sometime, but actually it's been a lot more harmonic as many of us are just sharing the same energy and love in the space. Now, I will say for the record that I may play this introduction tomorrow because I don't think it'll get any better than this, as far as just explaining things very clearly and as far as what we're about and what we're doing. But since we know this may be your first time, you may be new, we feel that we have to say this every single time in some way, shape, or form. So our first question, actually, we're going to jump right into this now. Run time today, because someone want to understand how long are we going to really go into this process. And we try to shoot for around an hour and a half. We generally kind of wind down in an hour and 45 minutes. So that's our time span for the day, possibly less. It's Sunday, so it's always a good time to get out there in nature and actually have a good time. So we try not to hold you too much, but we do want to give you something that actually allow you to even blossom more as you go into your experience for the day. Now, the question is from a number 7. Now, again, when we say these numbers, if you want to learn more about this, they're in Enealogy. Okay, so give me just a quick moment. Actually, yeah, let me just keep going with this. All right, so everybody knows that they can actually jump in. All Keymakers information is actually inside the description. And so we're going to go ahead and go in, and we introduce ourselves by what we have to deliver and what we have to bring. So I'm going to start off first with question number 7, or from a number 7. And this question is, I have a hard time expressing how I feel and what I want in a relationship. Also, I have a hard time connecting with other new people or even wanting to connect sometimes. Any advice? So this is the number 7 asking this question, and I will take a moment to allow the key makers to digest that, and then we'll go forward with the question for today.
Wholeness, my wife is a destiny number 7, and I find that what you just described almost described her to the T in some ways. It's sometimes we have to understand that we blossom differently. Like not every, you may be in a space in the beginning where you can't feel it. You don't get along with people. You don't make that connection with people. But then when you begin to tap back into yourself in a certain way and you begin to understand what it is that motivates you, you begin to attract some of that same kind of energy. So some of the things I'm always telling my wife is, look, when you're motivated about something, when you know what it is that you want, it becomes easier for you to reach out to people and connect with people. When somebody else is coming to you saying, this is what I want you to do, this is what I want to get you involved in, from what I see with 7s is usually like, because it's that master number in some cases where you're spiritually tapped into another space, and exactly, like you could censor the BS from when something is real. So the only advice I would say is, tap more into what it is that you want and understanding. And if you're going to be connecting with others, be clear in how you're going to connect with others and what it is that you want.
Hi. So as psychic number 7, I do find this. It's a mind reading type of thing, which is funny, where because you're so spiritual, it's you tend to be very empathic and feel everyone around you. So in a way, it's like a defense mechanism where so you do this as well at first. So it's an extra sensitive layer, I feel, to the 7, because we're so connected to other people. I find that about myself, in that I will naturally, want to hug and take care of people. So I tend to, the opposite of it is just like to, because I know once I get involved, I'm so deep in, like you're really committed and deeply to people's like emotional well-being, and that it can be draining. I feel. So you need to, be sensitive, not so much to others, I feel, but to yourself, and don't assume, be patient with how you're feeling and recognize that. That's what I would say about the 7.
Also, I wanted to add to that as well. So being a Destiny 7, I struggle with that too, like of just trying to connect with new people, because 7s, they go inside, it's a very spiritual experience being a 7. And so what helps is if you treat everything as an experience as a 7, like even those connections with other people, trying to tap into getting to know other people, you want to treat it all as if it's an experience, and be glad that that life is still teaching you something through other people. So when you look at it from those lenses, then you're like, okay, well, let's see where this could lead me, and this will lead me, not, blindly, but just keeping your eyes, and ears open, and just be open to everything, as the 7. That will greatly help you.
I can add to that as well. Thank you, Sister Paige, because you mentioned the eyes. For number 7, that particular point between the eyes is very, very important. And it's actually their main power point because they're so psychically in tuned. And one way for them to increase their psychic powers and their empathy with others and see the all inside.
Looks like, unfortunately, we may have lost our sister's connection for a minute. I'm sure that it'll catch up in just a moment. And does anyone else want to add anything to that question? If you wanted to speak now, that would be great while she's reconnecting her line.
Also wearing white color. The color white is very powerful for them to wear when they're doing that particular tratic meditation. Wholeness.
Wholeness, sister, we did lose your connection for just a brief moment. So right before you said white, if you may want to add any other, or just refresh us with what you were saying before that.
Sure. So like I said, for number 7s, because they're very psychically in tuned, to help them with empathy with others and to relate with others, because all is self, it's important, first of all, that they do something called a tratic meditation. And tratic meditation is simply staring at a candle flame with the eyes open and keep staring at it until the eyes start watering. And that's when you can close your eyes and go in. And also important to wear the color white when you're meditating. That's very empowering for number 7s, particularly when they're doing that tratic meditation. Wholeness.
Wholeness. Beautiful. Thank you, sister. I'm gonna keep going with the questions today because I have a feeling they're gonna pour in, and it's always great for us to keep moving through this. And so thank you also so much for those beautiful answers, Keymakers. The next question is from a 1. And this question is it possible to be with the wrong partner? 38, I guess they're saying I'm 38, married for 16 years with 2 kids, and I feel empty and not in love with my husband. Any advice? Is there such a thing as a twin flame, and how to find it through this situation? I also will make an additional note here that, and maybe we can pull around to this question in just a moment if we can get the data from this person. But if you're asking a question and it is in relation to another person or someone else, it helps to also know their number, because even when you say, am I with the wrong partner, we can even go deeper with the neology, and we can even look at what it is that this partner, what their subset is versus what your subset is. And this becomes very important because then we can be way more accurate, because after all, these are very serious questions. So getting the wrong advice in something like this could be detrimental to your life. We did have this come up recently, and it was really a deep conversation that we had in relation to our partners and what we should be doing in the relationships and how we should be carrying ourselves. And I'll look to the Keymakers to see if they want to answer anything directly about this question now. And maybe if you're actually still listening, and if you did answer this question, maybe you could just put the question in there again and then put the path that the particular person is on. I will also say, especially in relation to this, I think when we were able to synthesize our conversation about this topic, relationships and ideology, what we came to is actually realizing for yourself if what it is that another person has to offer is an actual benefit or an impedance for you. We know specifically that certain ideology numbers, and this information has come through in real time, the partner is a 9. So those that want to begin to compute that and dial that in. So this is a 1 with a 9. And what I'll lend to this is that at times when we look at other numbers that they call enemy numbers, but in this case we call them challenge numbers, because in the context of the ancient languages, there's no such thing as an enemy. So in this, they call it a challenge, and this means that this is something that is going to give you an opportunity to grow in a different way. And so sometimes I can only give an example. Let's say, for instance, if a person likes to be, let's say, a little lackadaisical, they may not like being right on time, fashionably late. And then you may have another person, and this is actually great in the context of the 1 and the 9, actually, because obviously the 1 sits over here and the 9 sits on the opposite end of that pole. So 1s have a tendency to be very prompt, very organized, and systematic, while 9s in their level of completion have a tendency to really let it flow and to go with the process and how the process is rolling. And this could oftentimes cause conflict within how each being is actually seeing and processing how intimately the other person is engaging in the reality. However, as a 1, we can oftentimes see with 1s that they're a little bit too high strung and they're a bit too, it's got to be on time and I got to know how it's going to happen and I got to lead. And in many of our lives, because we need to grow, it could be time out for that. It could be time for you to actually learn how to go with the flow a bit more. So in this context, we can actually see that if one energy brings in one type of force and the other energy brings into the other, if the one in this case is saying, this is something that I need, it is going to be a challenge for me as a 1 to slow myself down, but this is what I need in my life. This is what then they can hope to get from the person that they have now united with. And it also works on the other shoe. It's very important, again, for us to consider our partners and how we're behaving and not to just mow over them. And so you can also say, well, is my being on time and also my wanting to have things systematic something that they want to see in their lives? Now, of course, you will meet 9s that want to be way more prompt and don't want to be late all the time, and they want to increase that aspect of their lives. So then we have a perfect match. So when we say things like twin flames, we automatically assume that we're going to link with somebody that's going to do everything that we want. And this was also a deep aspect of what we brought out in this conversation. I may upload this conversation publicly. I'll ask, the ambassadors if they want to share this with the world. It is part of the private material. But in this material, we go deep into just also the awareness that each person is projecting onto the other person at times what they want from the other person. Initially, of course, there's this huge flame, there's this huge love, and I'll do anything you want. I'll go work out, I'll go get flowers, can I see you tonight? And there's all this joy. And then this starts to get put out over time as one starts to realize, well, this person doesn't brush their teeth in the morning, and this person doesn't make up the bed, and this person doesn't even really cook, and all of that we add in our lives as we've personally started diving deeper into somewhat of the illusionary aspects of ourselves and the specifics of what we prefer. And when we begin to project that on others, we oftentimes, if they concede to what we're asking, stop them from being who they are. And if that was who you were initially attracted to, this phenomenon can also lead to you no longer being attracted to the person that you're with, because they're no longer who they are. Sometimes this will happen back to you, as the couples always play this tit for tat game. They'll start changing things about you, changing your friends, and that kind of thing. And pretty soon both are not looking at who they truly are, but still carrying on every day. And this is also a big component of what I've come to discover is a part of how illusion is really created as a point-to-point system that affects us every day. So again, I'll give it to the Keymakers to see if they want to get any deeper than that in this question. But again, the personal dynamics to it is pretty intense anyway, because any decision that you have to make because kids are involved will be a serious one. So Keymakers, do you got something on this? A 1 with a 9?
Yeah. I would love to chime in on that. As your husband being a 9, you know, they very well could be complacent, you know, and very happy. That's one of the things about a 9 is that they could very well be complacent with where the marriage is. You know, they could be just overjoyed with what's going on, and there you are, unhappy about it. So the thing is that have you talked to your husband about this? Because communication is key here. He very well could be, you know, just in all 16 years, we got 2 kids. I'm with the love of my life. Boom. There's no need to grow. There's no need to progress. So that's also a quality of the 9. So, you know, you just have to go in and really dive deep and really go there with your husband about asking those questions and to really study your husband as a 9, you know, and to bring that knowledge and information to him as well, too, you know, to pinpoint the balance between you two and the imbalances. So, yeah.
Wholeness, I wanted to jump in. As a psychic 1, and I've been in a situation similar to that. What's helped me through was acceptance and accepting the current state of affairs, not judging it as wrong or right, or just the wrong partner is the right partner, in an overarching judgmental way, but just assessing where you are in the moment, because in essence, the decision to enter into the relationship in that way, you brought forth 2 additional beautiful beings, was right. And then at this point, though, now, as sovereign beings, we get to make decisions, and we make decisions in every moment about how we move forward. And I think the key as a 1 is beginning to tap into that power that you have and that we all have to determine in this moment if this makes sense and or how to make it make sense. And for me, one of the things that, because in the question, it was also the articulation of an empty feeling. And as a 1, as a primum, as the sun, for me, sometimes, you know, that sense of, okay, do you break up? Is this the right thing? To think about it in a way of, instead of, okay, that's it, I'm done, you know, that kind of moment, or that it's some kind of a definitive break, is to tap into that 1 energy, which means to shine, you know, to bring forth the shine and resonate in that power of the primum of the sun, of your own power. And in my experience, what happens is, as we tap into that frequency and that vibration in our own self, because as a mother, you know, and in a long-standing relationship like that, sometimes you can get out of touch and out of tune with that essence of who you are, hence the articulation of that empty feeling. But when you tap into it and you're resonating on that level, you know, that rising tides will float all boats. And sometimes you'll be amazed at how your relationships will shift and change as you begin to vibrate in a different frequency and pull more of that into yourself. And if it doesn't happen that way, you'll still be in a better position to be clear about what the next steps are for you, because you'll be able to see it from a different vantage point.
Hold on real quick. This is some good stuff, y'all. Y'all need to savor this for a moment. Like, these are such accurate. I mean, I see these questions come across at times into multiple sessions, and I see how tough it is for people to answer these questions. And I think we could give a moment to just the joy that we can all have at this moment, that we can get such clear answers to the questions, and how so many of these solutions actually have to do with us. It has to do with things that we can do to actually change what goes on around us. And so I just wanted to say that, and listening to the answer to these questions is so precise at the advice being given, just giving thanks for that.
And Sevan, something that's unique as well is you see a reflection of what everyone is saying in people around you, in your partners, in your parents, in your siblings. And sometimes based on the questions that's asked, it's like, man, that's spot on. And even the advice that is given is like, wow, that's spot on. I'm actually going to utilize that. I'm actually going to share that with others. So thank you, Keymakers, and thank you everybody for, delivering that kind of response that you've been delivering.
Absolutely. Okay, so I guess we're going to keep it going. I know there's some of y'all over here bursting to get to jump in. So again, I get the benefit because I get to ask the question. But so this is from a question. This is a question from, let me see 1 second here. We got quite a few questions rolling in. Okay. So this question is from a 2, and the 2 says, I get confused with this being all one universal energy and then an individual consciousness. We are the same but different. How does that work?
Wholeness and balanced vibrations, family.
You want to answer the paradox?
Exactly. The paradox is again, so a crystal example. If you're into crystals and the metaphysics or the stones and genealogy, we talk about veins or like one amethyst or one, let's say, tiger's eye, and how this all connected throughout that pressure, or it's all one river, or it's all one stone, like it's the same stone but from different fractals, different fragments of the same thing. And this, let's say, the striations of this stone is born on, let's say, when you bring it back to the people, was born on a Sunday, born in July, born in this space, born in this climate, found in this space, but it's all part of the same. And again, like Brent says, it's the paradox. But all of it is, you can see the amazing parts of it as we, in a sense, so we see that all of that is part of some of stuff is rushed through, family. Me take a breath.
I believe what the brother is saying specifically is about time, and how time, because like what he's saying is that with a tiger's eye, you got the tiger's eye, but then there's the Madagascar tiger's eye, there's the India tiger's eye, and then you even have amethyst. Is that another crystal? Actually, all of these forms are actually in time different things, but all in the same moment, the same thing. And I know, again, because we're dealing with the paradox, the world has a paradox anyway, because something comes from nothing. That's the biggest paradox ever. And because of that, that means it's there as a hard point in this entire reality that we're living in. It's actually our benefit, because we always get an opportunity to go beyond whatever limitation that we think is being put there. But it demands respect, because in many cases we look for answers to questions that actually don't have answers, because answers are a part of a specific kind of field, a specific kind of energy. It's like answers is for the realm of where knowledge even exists. There's spaces where words, conversations, there's so much more of a greater aspect of being. And we had mentioned that on the higher levels, the way things are perceived is only different from here, because we itemize things to the minuscule. So we almost like see all these different points, while above, like when you're seeing the fractal, you just say, oh, that's all the same stuff. It's all the same shape. And so this is what's most important to realize about our existence is there are things that are not able to be answered. And that's a great thing, because if we found an answer to where nothing comes from, I'm sure we'd bring death to it too, and bring fear to it too, and all the extra energies that we bring around things that we can figure out. And this also has a lot to do, even if you think about it, with relationships. The moment we think we found someone out, I know everything about them, that almost seems to be when we're ready to move on. And so because of that being a natural form of the construct of being a human, it actually, and even just in existence, a soul, a spirit, whatever you want to call it, consciousness, it actually means that there's going to be these things that can't be answered. And with our logical mind, we're going to attempt to understand them. And they're not going to render themselves as being understood for us because they can't be. So there's no latitude and longitude to everything. There's no specific name for the original essence. There's no tags or symbols that we can peg to it. And so that's the realm of really the question that you're asking. And that's what actually opens up the paradox, is being able to allow us to have that space to tap into energy that is unlimited by anything that can hinder us. And this becomes most useful, again, and I'll just mention this because it's a great power. It becomes useful when you get in a situation and everybody's insisting that you're going to remain there. You're stuck. You never can go further. This is it. It's like you got a life sentence and everybody's like, that's it. And there is a power that 2 months later, they're calling you back in, they're overturning the sentence. It turns into 6 months, you're out and you're at home because you didn't give in to this concept that there was something that was impossible here. So that's what I'll lend about that. If the Keymakers have something on that, I'll render the line for them.
I wanted to add, in terms of the one, for me, it's more of a feeling. In the womb healing, there's this one pointed picture that we always have of a pregnant woman. And the pregnant woman is like, she's pregnant and inside of her belly is the baby. And then it also points to inside of the baby is the egg. And so we are one. And so if you connect with the pregnant woman is actually your grandmother. And the baby inside of her is your mother. And you are the egg. And so imagine her memory is yours, And so that line, that continuous DNA line is infinitum. It has no beginning and no end. And we are always connected. And to me, that's the one. And although the baby has its own, it's also time. Think about it. It's your past, present, and future at the same, all in the one body. So it's always pointed to me to feel, when you see a pregnant woman, you just see all of that embodied in her and in the emotion that comes along. So for me, that's the one in the, so wholeness.
Perfect.
And to tune into that as well, and like the crystalline energy and the womb energy, I've got into this paradox a little bit myself and have discovered that it's as if there's this sliver. It's like a sliver of a uniqueness that each being carries in the ocean of unity, right? And we all have this unity connection, this unity code that we're all a part of. But as that descends and moves out and becomes a part of your unique spirit, it's encoded with this uniqueness, right? And this is it's like 0.0000, like it's so fractionally small, yet it makes such a difference between every human being. We're all so different. And a part of that is the ancestral relationship, but a part of it as well is also the karmic relationship, because we all have our own unique karmic path. And that karmic path comes through, that's, I know the yogis did a study and like back in the day, but they were saying that it's like a drop in the ocean. And that drop is actually shown within the slight difference between every human being in terms of a DNA perspective. And this is that fraction of a point difference between every human being. We're all so same, yet we're all so different. And it's the way I kind of understood it is, imagine like a baseball player that's throwing a ball, and let's say this is source consciousness and you're the ball and you're coming out of the womb or wherever you're coming out of, right? And as he throws that, or it throws that ball, it has this spin on it, and that spin is different every time, even if it's just like a fraction of a different, and that is enough as it moves through space and time for your energy to cascade out and be who you are now. And it's so micro, right? But then when we look at in terms of a womb perspective, like the first water we receive from our mother's womb. And our mother received her first water from her mother's womb, and her mother received it from her mother, and so on and so forth. So by the water of our body, and we're mostly made of water, we're directly connected to all of our ancestors. And not just on the mother's line as well, because there's also, water in semen as well, but we're connected literally to all of our ancestors through our bodily water. And that's how I've kind of understood it, as like we're this like sliver of this uniqueness in this whole. And as that comes out and through, it's kind of what's made you. So wholeness.
And also with number twos, it's quite important for them to, because of the water element, to master the water element within them. Like Bruce Lee said, be like water, my friend. As we raise our consciousness, we go from the fluid nature, which is in the Lila book of life, which is on the 6th chakra. As we raise our consciousness more and go into a higher state of consciousness, into the etheric realms, we become more of the gaseous nature when we have mastered the water element within. And for number twos, from a practical point of view, how are you purifying the water within you? What is the quality of the water that you're drinking? For example, we've been talking in Secret Energy about the hydrogen water. How are you getting regular body massages to regulate the water within your system? Are you doing regular cleanses to rid the body of excess mucus, which can carry a lot of the parasites within your own waters within the system? And so all of this is the internal process of going in, can also help the external process and the reflections that you're seeing externally to you, and to help raise your consciousness, wholeness.
I just want to, again, thank you. I think this is a great question, and I love all of the responses from the Keymakers. Wonderful. And I want to, again, suggest, I had suggested this previously, that for number twos and our folks who are under so much of a moon influence, to really get a moon calendar, or, very much pay attention each day to the phases of the moon, because you are constantly changing. And that crescent sliver of our waxing moon is the same moon, right, as the crescent sliver of our waning moon. It is still connected. It's just a different manifestation, like our Keymakers are talking about, right? We're all on a spectrum, and the moon especially goes through these changes. And I like the idea of a calendar, because I did this practice for a good 2 years, and it really helped me get very intimate with the moon phases and how I respond to the moon phases, and the difference between the seasons even. And I got a large wall calendar that I could write on for the entire year, and took notes basically from the first moon cycle in January all the way to the last moon cycle in December. And after I did this for a couple of years, I was really, feeling synchronicities. I was feeling very much more connected to these phases and to the moon than I ever have before. So I very much recommend that practice.
That's excellent. I also wanted to add improvisation to these Keymaker shows, in a brief awareness that I had is, when you do ask your question, and this will be from henceforth, I know we have a few questions in now, that's fine. But if you could also not only type your path, but also a M, a F, or a O. So that would be male, female, or other, if you just wanted to not be classified, which is great. But that's something that will help us, because it will give us a bit more on the angle, because even within the path numbers, obviously a male and a female do process things differently. Enealogy does account for that also. So if you could type question, your number, and then an M, a F, or a O, would be great, because then we can be able to dial in a bit more on some of these questions and understand a little bit more about what's going on with you metaphysically, and I guess that would be bioatomically. I'm going to keep going with the questions. There's another question here from number 9, and The 9 says, I want to spread wisdom with the world, but I feel like it's pointless at age 16, knowing that I have a lot to experience. I have a passion for music and holistic medicine. So that's from one of our number 9s in the tribe.
Okay, I'll go ahead and answer this one. Wow, 16. Yeah, you got a lot of time. And as a 9, you'll get my age, you know, come 26. I'll be 26 next year. And you're like, wow, okay, what's next? You're going to do every single thing. You know, you're going to keep adding to that. So, you know, start now. You know, if you know you feel you have a lot of wisdom, then give it. You know what I mean? But you know, start somewhere, because I'm telling you, as a 9, you're gonna keep accumulating things to do, more tasks, more skill sets, more everything. Like, you know, jack of all trades kind of deal. So, you know, at 16 is beautiful. First of all, that you're here. Like, wow, you're 16, listening to the knowledge and information. So, most importantly, first and foremost, just being young. Go ahead and look at the genealogy. You know what I'm saying? You know, at 16, you know, if you got your little first job, pay that little $79 a month, you know, it's an investment. Start looking at the professions that come along with the 9 and start aligning yourself up. Okay, well, you know what? I haven't done a lot in life. Let me see if I want to dive into fashion. You know, my brother, he's a fashion designer. He's a 9. He made this shirt for me. So he's a 9. So he got into that, you know, and got into film. We both were in film. We both did music, choir together, and I still do music. So start trying to do, you know, dip and dab in different things that you like. And, you know, it'll guide you where you need to go. You know what I mean? But as a 9, you'll do it all anyway. So just start somewhere. Wholeness.
Great response. And I would say for 16, I mean, wow, you know, you being a number 9, music is your outlet. Utilize that. If you want to spread information, use your creativity, use your outlet to do it. Because one thing about information, it's going to keep on coming. It's going to keep on flowing. And if you just allow it to be stuck and you allow it to build, then it become frustrated and you'll feel like you're holding a boulder. So use your creativity, use your music connection as a way to deliver that information.
I wanted to add too for the 9. Remember, Prince was 16 years old when he got his first recording gig. I mean, I don't think he stayed on that label, but the point is that there's no reason to wait to bring forth your gift. You know, you're here. If you know that there's something that you want to do, bring it forth. And also to the 9, it was so interesting because the 9 is the Mars energy, and that's young Ram, right? And so the energy, though, is also a protective energy and a very enthusiastic, you know, let's get this done kind of energy. And when we talk about genealogy and the story behind it, you know, at some point, right, there's the guru that comes in, the Buddha, you know, those practices and that wise counsel that guides young Ram and guides that energy to its highest expression. And so it's awesome that you're here and that you're getting counsel from some places that can help you guide and get plugged in a way that's going to be useful to you, because you don't want to just burn up that fire just to be burning it. You know, you want to make sure that you're utilizing it and utilizing that energy to get where you want to get to and to bring forth your gift in the most powerful way.
Also with number 9s, it's the more they give, the more they receive. They are so, you know, 9 is the number of completion, if you look at all the numbers. And it's the end of the spiritual cycle. But however, 9, what comes after 9 is 10, which is a 0, actually, which has a 0 in it. So the 9 has to fall into the absolute of no thingness into that bindu point, into that nothingness in order to learn. And so the more challenges that 9 receives in their life, the more they actually receive through their givingness. This is the paradox of a number 9. And it's a really, really interesting number because they're very, very spiritually enlightened people. As we know here, we have Sister Paige, number 9. And, you know, you get a lot of young rams, a lot of enlightened spiritual number 9s who are always seeking the truth. And they do have a lot of challenges in their life, but with each challenge, they grow. And they grow simply by giving, because they go into that absolute. And going into that absolute is the art of surrender, the art of letting go. Because the more they fall, the more they rise, I should say. The more they rise into that 0 point, the more they receive internally that they can then give back. So it's such a beautiful number, wholeness.
Wholeness. And to give you some smooth application, young Ram, I'm sure you got a number of apps already on your phone that you play with, a number of ways. I'm gonna give you a couple more that you can actually practice, record yourself in a multitude of ways. You have Zoom, which is one of the softwares we actually use right now, where you can record yourself and talk over it. Record it. It's all free. You download it, create one, see how you sound, see how you look, how to get your message out there. Another one is Audacity. It's another free thing you can download to loop your sounds and play with that technology. Use YouTube to be your friend to find out how to use it. Do tutorials to again get your message out there, record it. Or you can also use another one called Spreaker. Spreaker, that's SPREAK, that you can have sound and talk over it as well. So those are 3 resources you can use today. Download it, express yourself in the ways that you do, especially musically or just as a podcast. And you decide if you want to share it or not. After it's done, after you made it, you can share that link or you can leave it. But that's some opportunities for you to go ahead and create that, getting that message out.
Beautiful. Wholeness. I also wanted to just as a final note on the mathematics around 9 and just connecting with why they're able to receive when they give so well is because 9 added to anything brings back itself. And so this literally means that when you're assisting someone, the highest level of what they are, you're able to gain. So it's rather interesting. So just to solve that, it's like 9 plus, let's say 5, right, is 14, right? 14. So, and then 1 plus 4 is 5, or 9 plus 3 is 12. 1 plus 2 is 3. So this is again another mathematical anomaly of 9. Of course, anything times by 9 equals itself. So it just lets you see in the numerology, and each sign had something rather special and rather unique. So use your powers, use your abilities, and know where your space is. And so that also means that if you're feeling this, I'm not sure if I want to share or if I should share my message, remember that ties directly into your own personal growth. You sharing actually allows you to receive. And so this means that for most number 9s, they're going to be constantly put on under some type of pressure that would hinder them from giving out what they have so that they can receive something back. So just be aware of that. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the next question. It's actually from a number 6. And this 6 is asking, is there any benefit to adding numbers of a relationship and getting to a single digit in order to further understand the relationship? And I'll chime in very briefly. I will say for sure, yes, especially for someone that may be digging into the aspects of relationships a bit more. We all should do that. But for a number 6, relationships are extremely important to you because you actually have a lot of attractive force. And so this means that people will be more wanting to engage you for a type of relationship. But also for you as an allegiant, which is what we call the number 6, you have a tendency to commit yourself to people. And so it's very important for you to understand what's going to come from that relationship. So you may have to do a bit more digging by using math or these numbers in order to actually see what kind of energy is going to be generated with this energy. And then saying maturely, is this the energy that I want? And I can't say enough about that to all of us who choose to use enealogy, especially with things like determining how we're really synchronizing with our relationships and what's going on around us. Oftentimes the passions will still win, and you'll learn that kind of over time that you need to go with your core knowledge. And what I mean is that If a person's very attractive and then you find out that they're not going to be a benefit for you, ideology is saying, no, don't do this. You may still go in there and jump into that. And it just because you're guided by your passions. And that honestly is the difference between a neophyte and an adept. Just in into the strictest form, is that there has to be some level of discipline, and because you're climbing a ladder, so every time you choose to make a choice that you know is not harmonic with the foundation that you're building with, then you have to. It's like the universe's way of saying, well, I need to make sure that you stay on point with what you said you were going to do, and that's why it's important to ultimately realize just how we have to have fun with our experience and learn who we are and fully explore who we are. And that is the only way to learn who we are, is to truly explore who we are. But on that process, it's very important for you to listen to what you're learning as your rule and your guidelines to how you're processing your experience, and stick to that template as you keep going forward. So yeah, that's what I got. Is there anyone else on this? This is a number 6 saying, is there any benefit to adding these numbers together on the relationships? And I guess it's a very concise question, so I think we'll move on with that. Absolutely do those numbers. And it's another 6 here with another question. And this question is, I have extreme self-worth issues. And for my lifetime, I have experiences over and over where I get left behind. Please help me balance these experiences. And I think that we had a similar question to this from a number 6 last Keymaker, so I will mention that you may want to go ahead and check the archives on that question, but I will open this up for that question to be answered now.
I can comment. I'll go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I'll just quickly, if it's specifically the feeling of getting left behind, coming from self first with all this self and giving to yourself, being selfish is the greatest gift you can actually give, because it's actually truly being selfless. So when you're fully giving to yourself and making yourself feel joyful and making yourself feel alive and supported, you're actually fully present. You're fully supporting in any relationship that you can move forward in. So if you're, and that might go back to your earlier experiences, which is what also was in the last Keymakers, but being able to unpack perhaps why in times that you feel like you've needed to be second, or you've needed to kind of be reactive rather than being able to stake a claim at what you feel is yours and how you choose to wish to be in this world. So there's a lot of resources there in the last call. And again, I'll just open up to Paige, but just, don't have any, don't feel guilty about giving to yourself first and doing what you enjoy and finding what lights you on fire, and doing the work and unpacking the kind of knots inside of yourself that might be blocking you continually. Wholeness.
Yeah, beautiful answer, brother. So just to recap, last week we were talking about, or one of the episodes, we talked a lot about the 6 and how beautiful they were and how abundant they were. And it's just a direct imbalance, when you don't feel your worth as a 6. And so, definitely go check out the Enealogy site to get a thorough, in-depth explanation on the 6, so that you see where your imbalances are. And, fortunately enough for you, that this is an imbalance, that you're not feeling your value, because you have so much value as a 6. And, also, if you're not careful about establishing those boundaries as a 6, people can take advantage of that beauty. And so that can also make you feel less than what you are. So as a 6, you have to know, in your core, that this is what you were built for beauty, to reflect that beauty onto others, because you are our reflection as well. And that's who we need to see. We need to see the beauty. So give thanks, wholeness.
Wholeness. For the analogy, it's we're looking at reading a car manual, trying to understand the driver. Like, we use this external reality to determine, to give us validation of who we are, and if we're ready, if we're beautiful, if we're all these things, when that's the illusion. Coming back inside is how you understand self. This is the pure, this is the rawness. So if you're using any of those outside external versions to validate your beauty, to tell you you're beautiful, tell you that you're amazing, and you're not getting that, that's coming from someplace else. That's not you. So if you close your eyes, tap into the meditation, tap into something else that is beautiful, and that is a direct reflection of you getting out into nature. In nature, you'll find that perfection that you're looking for. And then as you begin to go between you and nature, you'll find that the nature in you, or you are nature, you'll see the beauty within, that you'll find your uniqueness that you're looking for, but you have to take that time to go and get that from yourself. Close out the external variables that you might have been computing to determine your wealth.
Wholeness. So also with the 6, it's like you're the life of the party. So all the friends come to you, which means that you got used to other people telling you, you know, your worth. And, you know, sometimes you need to go in, you know, like everyone is saying, in terms of like, you know, when I was younger, I had a lot of the, you know, you're not beautiful, you're not this, you're not that. And, you know, there came a time when it was like, I told myself, looked in the mirror and did that. You're beautiful. I love you. You know, I practice this. I mean, like, it's so important to practice that, saying to yourself that you're beautiful and saying to yourself that you love yourself. You know, again, and I've shared this many times with those who know me. In my 20s, I worked really hard, long hours, and I was very much professional. So I had the mean, you know, right here was always like, you know, very strict when you spoke to me. And so I undid that in my 30s and I smiled. And you know what? When I first started the smiling, it wasn't as genuine, but because I kept doing it, it turned into who I am. And now it's hard for me not to smile, which is funny, because that's who I am. You know, some things you need to create a practice for yourself for. Be who you want to be. You know, we are all of these numbers. So be who you want to be. You can if you want to be a happy person, say, wake up today, I'm a happy person. And, you know, by the time you get to the 10th and the 21st day, you are a happy person. And that's the work on self. That's the self-care. You know, it doesn't come from husbands and friends and, you know, parties. It really comes into doing the work until it's not work, it's you, you know. So, and that goes, I think, for across all of the numbers into working with selves and self, you know. So that would be my advice, wholeness.
Thank you, sister, so much for that. Go ahead, Joy.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in, I think that's so lovely. And, you know, as 6s, like we were talking about getting into nature, and, you know, 6s is the stop and smell the roses sign, right? So maybe you're hanging out with the roses and people are walking on down the path, but you're going to see something fascinating right there because you are in the spot, you know, where you need to be at that time. So everything occurs in divine timing. And what came up for me when you were saying, that you were left behind, I'm thinking, well, who's leaving you behind, right? So what is that judgment for you that you're saying there are others that are leaving you? I know as a 6, and very much a giver, and just love to do that. I love to give to people and, you know, have them feel good and love what I'm giving them. And then sometimes I get tired and I can't do it anymore. And I'm kind of feeling like, well, wait, just because I'm not giving, now nobody's around, you know, and I start to want that again. And then that is my biggest clue that is the time to go in. That is the time to give me the love, right? The love that's your self-nourishment that only you can provide. And there was one other thing I wanted to add. As we talk about Venus, right? We talk about number 6 and being ruled by Venus, and we're talking about beauty and we're talking about abundance. And I want to make it clear here that we're not saying that every number 6 is this gorgeous perfect specimen. 6s have natural magnetism, natural attractiveness, right? No matter what size, shape, color, age you are, you exude exude this, right? When you are in your power, you're exuding this. So I just feel called to let folks know that when we're talking about sort of this beauty of the Venus energy, that it is that very much natural magnetic attractiveness that is around you. And so as you're feeling left behind or left out, then you do really just need, for me, go out in nature. You know, I look at the flower and I don't see an ugly flower or a flower that's, you know, not blooming on time, or this flower got left behind, right? We're all in divine timing. Allow yourself the blooming. Allow that space for you. Wholeness.
Wholeness, sister. I like that a lot. In fact, you know, I really, wow. I mean, just such a deep insight. I know if you've been tuning into these recordings, you've heard us say, you know, go within quite a few times, and you can never get tired of it. It's a repetitious thing, just as our sister is saying. You have to practice this. Like, even if you notice, if you say this to yourself in the mirror and you say, I'm beautiful, and then you feel like you automatically start feeling conviction and things for that, it lets you know how much practice that you need, because you're being acted on by the external forces, if you may, meaning the things that how we get enacted on by external forces is not all the time some creature that has it in for us, but us actually, like as an allegiant, giving something else all of our power, and then when it's not there anymore, feeling powerless. And so this is why this internal and understanding and all this comes up so much, because we find it as a key dynamic in PowerPoint. And something else that you can add to this that is just another way of looking at it is, many of us are actually, pretty much everyone on the planet is always looking for their mission. They're always looking for their purpose. And the big clue to all this, to solve the big riddle here, is that you are the purpose. You're actually inside of it. And I know that may sound just the most basic and common sense thing. It may sound like that, but just think about this from a deeper level, that what is purpose truly, but the emphasis to how you're doing things. And how much more could you really do things except for through your own self? And so you're the mission. And let's say, for instance, and this is, you know, just a metaphor here, but if you spent a life on perfect phi, let's say, and that was defining your beauty, it makes sense that you would spend the life off of that in order for you to see your beauty within. And so we can read through our paths at times, even sometimes our previous existence, just like with things like the human design, you can see the metamorphosis of the path. So it's just most important for us to remember that you are the mission and you are the purpose. And once you solve yourself, once you actually figure yourself out, which is quite a journey, then every single thing else is going to make sense. But just remember that when you're always asking yourself, what am I supposed to be doing in life? Do you, because once you realize who you are and what's going on with you, it's going to unlock everything else. So I'm going to keep moving through the questions. This is a question from a number 8. And actually, excuse me, I have one more question before then. Oh, wow, there's quite a few questions coming. Okay, so we're going to need to activate rapid fire. I just noticed that they're still pouring in. I guess everybody just tuned in today. Okay, so we're going to activate rapid fire. That's where we attempt to answer as many questions as possible with the shortest period of time, still being exact and precise as possible. We generally give ourselves about 15 seconds to go through a really concise answer to the questions that we're getting from Tri. So we're going to go ahead and start. This is a question from a number 1. As the questions keep rolling in. And this question is, how do I connect more with my number 8 brother? He seems very stubborn, and I guess that's stubborn and out. Conversations devolve into arguments. Okay, so maybe she's saying he's very external and stubborn, and conversations devolve into arguments. This is from a number 1. Anybody got that 15-second rapid fire?
As a Destiny 1 and my brother's a part Psychic 8, I've come to see that it's just about being in his presence and being in the presence together, you know, and you don't need to say anything a lot of the time to get the best out of that relationship. It's doing things, you know, that's the best way to also converse with someone, is to be in their energy and to do something together. So find something that you both like doing together, and it might be sitting fishing or doing nothing, and just enjoy that silence if you don't really feel like going into a conversation that's going to antagonize each other, but just be that mature part of yourself that is there for the relationship. Wholeness.
Wholeness, I'm a psychic 1 and destiny 8, so I have both of those energies playing all the time. The 8 is a lot slower and a heavier energy, and the 1 is, is that sun bright energy. And what I found is non-judgment, and realizing that there isn't a wrong or a bad, it's all just a part. It's like the light and the shadow. They all are necessary parts, and allowing them the space to integrate and accepting that through non-judgment.
All right, let's keep it moving through this because the questions are still coming in. I'll also say that, when you're getting into it with a potentate, a slow moving sign, as a number 1, this is like a battle royal it could be. So I definitely would advise, not going into, because the 8 can absorb all of that you have going on. And that could leave you feeling deflated. Always remember 8s are like long haul. So maybe he's not getting it now, but you dropping those seeds in there, he'll see the light later on. So it's just very important to remember what you're dealing with specifically with these paths and the kind of energies that they carry. This is a question from a number 2. This number 2 is saying, I feel more alive in the dream world. When I wake up, it's almost like I want to dive back in. What could this mean in the tense of, again, more active in the dream world and feeling that more than the external world from a number 2?
Just jumping in because I also have a strong connection with the moon. I was born on a Monday, although I'm not a number 2. The thing is grounding. Sometimes we tend to get pulled into, one side versus the other. So I think it's, I practice lucid dreaming, and most of the night, I'm lucid dreaming. So this understanding of like when it happens, I'm really into, hey, ground. Where am I? And I'm at that point where I'm consciously doing this and that, and merging my 2 selves into my spiritual self and my physical self, and really understanding that. So, for me as a psychic 7, and it's, I tend to go, like, when I'm meditating, I'm gone. So it's go back to earth, so that, ground, put my feet on the ground. And, when I'm meditating, I do certain practices that are specific to, my physical being, because of I know that I'm heavy on the spiritual side. So, a 2 tends to be that shadow self that, so pay attention to your grounding.
I would also add, because I enjoy the dream world. That's where I've had the most fun. In fact, I used to find myself levitating in my dream and tell myself, I wonder, can I bring this into the awakening state, right? Because I was in that lucid state. But what I would say is, find out what you can pull from that dream world into now, especially if you feel so alive there. What is it within that dream state that is missing in the external, in the reality? So finding a way to, journal, dream, write. Some people say that if you remember your dream, it's not a dream, it's a message. Something is communicating to you. So I would just say, find a way to write more, pour what you're pulling from that world into this one, and then taking that time to read it and taking that time to understand it.
Awesome, family. Okay, so it looks like we have about 10 more questions. So we're gonna go through these questions, and we're gonna see exactly how much we can get through. I guess we'll leave our hard stop at 11:15. Just so at some point we can at least get on to the rest of the day. But let's go ahead and keep these questions rolling. This question is actually from a number 7, and they said, I'm with a 6, and my question is, do narcissistic people change? Will they ever be capable of healthy relationships? He seems so evil.
An evil 6? Well, I would just want to say, I guess what's coming up for me in this question is that, when relationships, of course, very complicated, right? It's what we're talking about here with the two numbers. And, when we get into something like narcissism or what we're thinking about that is just remember relationships have a dynamic, right? And so in order for, the narcissist so-called could be showing up in the relationship one way, and then how are you responding to that person, right? So it does kind of take two to tango in this. And so if you're thinking about evil, well, I guess, in the all is self world here, right? When we're calling, you point one finger, you got four fingers pointed back at yourself, right? So I think that we can all, I know myself, I can speak to evil joy. I am a life path 6. I do have evil joy. She comes out occasionally. And, and I embrace this as my shadow side and the challenge and the work for me to do to maintain my balance. And so this really sounds like an opening in your relationship. Again, you can't solve relationships with just one person here. So that's what's coming up for me. I do think that 6s absolutely can run, we are extreme, right? We have sensualities and extremes that go in both directions, as all the numbers do. So I'm going to hand it off to another keymaker for some more specifics, but that's what had come up for me.
Beautiful. Since there's 10 questions, we'll actually keep it moving through this. I will always say, though, sometimes when we diagnose a person as something, that just means that we're getting too much of that from them. And why somebody else may enjoy that, you may not. And so it is one of those things where since a lot of relationships start without looking at any of this stuff beforehand, or that narcissism may have been the same thing that you were attracted to initially, we have to really be clear when we're starting to see in our relationship something that we don't want. It's not necessarily a problem with the other person, but something that we no longer feel is serving us or a preference for us. So it's always great to look into it that way. This is a question from a number 4, and the 4 says, how does it feel to be guided? I have something around me that is knocking every time it thinks I should do something. Should I go with it or not? And this is coming from a number 4. Quite a few number 4s on the line today.
I mean, as a number, no, go ahead. As a number 4, I mean, I welcome guidance. I welcome advice from others. And as a number 4, you understand what is important. You understand which path is important for you to take, and exercise that. If somebody's giving some advice that is not for your benefit, for your growth, then respectfully allow them to say thank you. And just keep moving in the direction that you need to move. So you as a number 4, what paths are important for you.
I do feel like this is a number 4 question that knows the answer to the question. It's just answering the question. Number 4s do that sometimes, but yeah, because you really have to use discernment. I think nobody can really tell you, should you be following the voice within? I know a lot of things talk to the 4s, and maybe just because they have such an active, because they're just ahead. So you can hear, quite a few voices, and it does take discernment to know what voice should I be following. But generally, that's something that has already been established very early in life. And it's generally the 4 just knowing that when they do something that it's not going to bring the results that they're looking for, but they kind of go and do it anyway. So it's, just looking deeper into the discernment and realizing that we all have guidance. I don't know why we've adapted the concept of that our guides are always talking English. Many of our guides are actually here with us in all spaces, all shapes, and all forms. Water is a guide. Breath is an amazing guide. So if you are saying that you don't know how it feels to be guided, I would for sure dig deeper into the breathing, because just that lack of awareness there is probably what's going to allow you to also see very clearly what voices you should be listening to. So I'm going to keep going with this. This is a question from a number 6. And this 6 says, as I become more conscious, I realize that some friends who are challenge numbers aren't on the same page. And does it benefit me to stick around and accept that everyone is on their own path And I think we, again, answered this question earlier. And what we're saying is it's for you really to make that assessment. Because if you're actually going to be around some beings that you don't want to be around, I really don't see what the point in that would be. It's kind of like a direct conflict to becoming more mature. So in this case, you have to understand if these challenges are actually challenges that will eventually benefit you in some way, shape, or form, or some traits that you want to gain. We all have something unique to receive from each other, but you do need to know if that uniqueness is actually going to serve you in this space and time. So I'm going to keep moving on. This is from the question from a number 8. It says that I'm having currency money flow issues. It comes, but it slips away just as fast. And this has been a theme all my life. I need advice. I'm stopping the energetic leaks. Thanks, tribe. This is from a number 8.
So Joy hit on this briefly, getting in touch with the cycles, right? So, in terms of just understanding how things move, think about number 8 Saturn and its connection to agriculture, So really understanding cycles and the ebb and flow of life. And I know, especially Saturn being, it's patient. So you have to be patient with yourself. And, some cycles are longer than others, So find what your cycles are.
Yeah, could directly be saying also really work with saving, since it's a long haul path. Like think about if the money is slipping away really fast, the art of saving. That's why we actually we let everyone know, especially since it's a financial question. You should probably take a look at what is it? The Minority. What was that channel? Life is Minority Mindset.
Minority Mindset.
Yeah, check out Minority Mindset because there is a lot of mindsets that have been adapted, if you may, about how money works, when to take advantage of money. Money is an art in itself. It's not something that everybody has. So that's just why you would need to be educated in money. It has a specific educational subject. So I would say that for sure is understanding how money works, because it is such a finite thing after a while. I know you're working with your energetic leaks and things, which will help. But the next stage of that is just understand how money works. And as the sisters are saying, the ebb and flow, because even right now, there's an ebb and flow to the charts. There's an ebb and flow to every financial current or stream. So realizing that, okay, right now, there's possibly a financial problem, but everybody's got at least $1,200. Like all those different dynamics let you be prepared for exactly where you need to be going with your financial projects. So we'll keep going. The next question is actually from a number 3, and it says, I feel like every time I reach a certain level of happiness, something tragic happens in my life. Could there be an entity causing this feeding off of my anxiety? And if so, how do I detach from it? So that's a question from a number 3, a Jupiter flow.
To tap into that a little bit, as well as kind of the previous one before, is if you feel like there's this energy that's kind of disrupting your flow or causing you leaks or kind of knocking you off kilter, I found a useful technique is the Tamil technique of the Tarpanam, Tarpanam, and it's the ancestral offering, because it actually might be our ancestors that are have some hang-ups about whether we're earning money, or maybe they didn't get the time to kind of shine in doing what they did, and you're in a power place now on the throne, being able to live your life and do your things. And not all of our ancestors are, we've all got the family member that might be a bit gringy sometimes, and being able to kind of see that in our ancestral lineage, we can also start to open the space to make an offering, which is like you offer sweets, flowers, black sesame seed, white rice, water, incense, and you kind of create this offering the night before a new moon, so the darkest night of the month, which is when the kind of veil is the thinnest and our ancestors come to visit. And you can kind of make this offering to create the space for them to come and feast, so that they can then move into the light and move beyond this plane. And also as they move on, they can bless you and kind of, get out of your way, so to speak, if they're blocking your flow of energy. So that's what I would say about that wholeness.
So increasing the your superpower, your joy, Like, what gives you joy? What is that thing? And some of those things that identify within the cosmic calendar, be it yellow sapphire, some things that keep you grounded within that space and wearing those accoutrements. And let's say when something, it's typically when you say that something took your joy, is what you're saying. Be strong enough so nothing can take your joy. You know, you, that belongs to you. That is within your domain, within your memory, within self. So something that kind of gets you a little fluctuation that takes you out of balance. Know what brings you back into it. Is it a dance? Is it a song? Is it a charm? Is it a stone? What is it? And have that as very close to you, not inside of you. That's the hint. Otis.
I would say try and stay in the savoring, right? The savoring and the appreciation of your accomplishment and your manifestation. You know, these are wonderful things, and they happen all the time, and they can be tiny and they can be huge, and each one, right, is a reason to pause and give thanks to you, right, to you and to the cosmos that allowed for these manifestations. So try and stay in the savoring of the moment instead of working into self-sabotage, right? We know everything goes up, it must come down. So we are going to be in waves, right? You're going to be up, you're going to be down. So that's why it's very important to savor these moments when they're there. Savor them.
You know, it's funny that you say that, Joy, because I had literally got into the practice of not over celebrating. And I know that may sound wild, but from our concept, when you yin, you yang, I make personal intentions to not let the spike go so high that when the dip comes, that it's too low. And that's just all out energy management. But I think everybody, and then of course what Ellis Stair's saying is another equal component. Like sometimes we do have to listen to our intuition. We feel like maybe there's some energy around us that may be like looking to, you know, drive things into more of a darker direction once we are starting to be happy. I mean, because people even do that when you think about it. Some people are even jealous about your success and things that you're experiencing for the moment that may bring you joy. So harmonizing that energy, you know, doing the ancestral connection and actually allowing that energy to clear the space is another way to check through things and make sure that you've done is the best that you can. And then ultimately, just like our brother is saying, you know, if you even have this thought, that's almost like a chink in the armor in itself. So going into figuring out why am I having this thought that something is directly hindering me is always a good thing. And I love that it's a roller coaster. Life does go up and it does come down. So being prepared for what can happen is always the great state to be in. It also prevents it. I always find that, like, even in any kind of scenario, if you have a solution for it, sometimes the situation does, most of the time it doesn't even occur. It's only when you're vulnerable and there's no solution that you seem to attract certain situations that you're not prepared for. So always keep aware of that energetically. This is another question from a path 2. And so this is the moon. And it says, what's the advice for dealing with addictive behavior from generational trauma and programming that we have?
That's deep. Just sit with it, give it space to come to your face it, be able to bring all of your energy, call the support in of your ancestors, call the support in of high vibrational support, whatever that is for you, Mother Nature, Father Sky, Grandmother Moon, and also the support of all of your ancestors, you know, because there's warrior blood in you, in all of us. You know, we've had the battle cries, we've had the trumpets, we've had the champions. You know, we've shed the blood and the tears. You know, you've been victorious, and you know what you need to do. So there's nothing that can prevent that from being resolved, specifically within you. And that's the beauty of being born and being alive right now, is because it's all down to you. It's all down to self, because you're on that throne, you're the crest of that wave, you're the tip of that spear. And if it is an ancestral current that's quite strong that hasn't been resolved, there's something there in the root. You do have so much support being afforded to you to really start to heal that and work with that. And that might be quite a deep journey, but just know that you're supported in that mission. And all you can do is do your best, you know, and know that you'll be supported. Wholeness.
Wholeness. Yeah. So, go ahead. Sorry. So my practice is the Ho'oponopono prayer, or it's the I love you, please forgive me, thank you, and this is a meditation that you can do for about 21 days. And what I specifically do is to go inside of go inside of yourself, or I specifically like go inside my grandmother's eyes. I ask for this ancestor to come up and go inside of her eyes, and because of that connection of she's me and she's my mother, and so to go through that and then go backwards to the generations. You can go backward 14 generations. If you don't have a direct ancestor that's alive that you can, on the female side, you can always go to your to anyone that's close to you. You can do this on the female side. You can do this on your mother's side, I should say, on the father's side, just to heal the DNA. And what I found though is like once you start digging deeper, and the DNA will start. I've been in meditation where I feel slitters. A tiger will come on. Creatures that you didn't know existed you'll feel and feel their energy in terms of going deep into the meditation. But doing this practice consistently for like a good at least 21 days, and then you can keep going if you'd like to, will heal even relationships that you have with current people, will heal relationships that's been damaged, you can say, like for whatever, however long. Sometimes you're the healer to your family. This is one of the things that, to me, like I had to take responsibility for my own cells, my own DNA, because it's in my body. So therefore, when I go into this meditation, I actually close the door behind me, because I refuse to have my son have those same, traumas and issues. And I say I close these doors behind me, and everything is healed. And that's my words of power. Sometimes you can take this on as your own, saying, I'm going to heal this DNA. So it's a commitment. However, from me and from the women that I've practiced with, it works. Wholeness.
I just wanted to jump on really quickly. Addictions are repetitive behavior, and the 8 is that infinity. It's kind of a loop where you can just get caught in, just a repetitive behavior. And one thing that I found, for example, at one point I was indulging in sugar a lot, and I wanted to break that. And but instead of making it a rigid, okay, no sugar, or that kind of thing, I would just, when that craving came up, I would drink water. Well, this is what I did. I drank water, and I would listen to Stanley Turrentine, Sugar, right? And it started to, it was like I was using the habit, but I was kind of replacing it with something that was going to move me out of the destructive aspect of it. But the repetitive nature is always a good thing. I mean, but it's, what are you using it to do? So utilizing that pattern, that habit, putting something else in there that's actually moving you toward, a reality that's more desirable for you. And also understanding that, that we are sovereign. We do have the capacity to overcome that, and to, rearrange, the dynamics of our behavior.
Absolutely. Let's keep it moving. All great subjects here and answers. And also, I do want to say, just remember, when you use words like programming, as our sister is saying, getting something else into the program is a big key. Like for a lot of those that actually feel like they're dealing with some type of trauma, support helps. Getting the right kind of groups of people around you that are also going through their experiences, but they're actually solving their experiences. This is another reason why we have things like our secret energy chats, our ambassador trainings, etc., because there's so many solutions. This is not one of the things where you can just, okay, I'm gonna go on from this and everything is solved. This is something that you have to go through a process of, and that's why even initially the question was like, okay, for anyone answering this, there's things that you're going to need to do. There's things that you're going to need to be looking at, your diet. There's, your interactions with others, also being, again, as a path to, having a heart that's extremely open, and, what could have gone on in those situations. You didn't indicate if you were male or female, but if you're a female, dealing with where the trauma is actually residing inside of the body. So all these things, this is what we address, but you don't have to necessarily come over here. You can actually find others that are willing to support you this way, but it is a recommendation. This next question is from a 6. Again, also the thing is 6 is the most from the research highest occurring path in the world, by the way. So it's always great to find as many solutions as we can for 6s, but we do see a reoccurring theme. Meaning that because we get the questions a lot from the 6s in relations to certain things, it's really good for 6s to practice going to support and actually seeing their weekly support.secretenergy.com what's been available on your path to answer some of the questions that you're having. This question is, why is it so hard? This is a 6. Why is it so hard for me to listen or even know what my inner voice is? And when I hear it, I tend to go against it. Okay. Again, that's a really open-ended question. There's a lot of personal development that should take place here. I would also, again, think about breathing, because anytime you're dealing with not being able to listen to something, it generally means that you're talking. And because the consciousness is somewhat incapable of doing both of those at the same time, it's like reading something and listening to something at the same time. You really would need to learn first to put these practices in with the breathing, so that way you can start to gain a level of awareness about yourself. I'll go ahead and open this up also to any key maker that wants to answer this for number 6.
I would just go ahead and say, try to practice silence. We did a 10-day silent retreat, but I would not go that deep. Start with maybe a 4 or 5 hour silence, no phone, and use that as a time for writing and going out into nature, going out and just taking a moment in silence and practicing that. I don't think anybody on this line just initially just came into all full enlightenment. It was practice. It took time. It took listening. It took writing. It took being quiet. It took, just going within yourself. So practice, maybe tomorrow try an hour in silence, and then 2 hours silence, and then 3 hours silence, just slowly, and write as you're doing that, and you'll slowly reconnect with yourself.
And life is telling you, as not only the client, but the president, he actually did his Vipassana, which is 10 days of silence. And that, from what he was exclaiming about it, was a life-changing experience. I know Jeanette also went on Vipassana and was able to well up quite a bit of manifestation power and potential and control over self. So, if you're looking for the fast track program, I'm not sure, again, with all these new happenings in the reality, if Vipassana is actually running at this state. But when it does return, it may be something to look into to get immediate results, or well, actually after 10 days of going through this process of a crash course of learning just how to listen to yourself and how to quiet the voice and the sensations within.
And I would also suggest that, try and do that on a Friday, because Shukra is the power day for Venus. And, Venus, because it's a very beautiful, outwardly beautiful planet, its power, you always have to look at the reverse, the polar opposite. Its power comes from its inner beauty. Its power stone is the diamond. To finding the diamond within is actually your power. So the Vipassana, like Brother Life said, also going inwards. And also one practice that I used to practice a lot going into nature was just sitting by a tree. My name number is number 6. And so on a Friday, to sit by a tree facing south, it's an old ancient Mayan ritual. So you face south and you ask the tree, who am I? You close your eyes as you're facing south. And who am I? And you sit in your silence with that for a few minutes. And then you go to the west of the tree and you sit with your back up against the tree and you say, where did I come from? Then you go to the north of the tree and you say, or you ask, why am I here? And then you sit on the east side of the tree and you say, what is my path? You put your hands on your heart and you say, what is my path? And then you make an offering to the tree. The Mayans often offer tobacco, but I used to offer corn flour. Corn flour is very healing, and just a little bit of corn flour to the tree. And I practice this every Friday with my favorite tree in my garden, asking the questions telepathically in my silence. And you just get an inner guidance from the spirit of the tree. So try that on a Friday, perhaps. Wholeness.
Wholeness. There's only 3 questions left here, and we're reaching the end of the Keymakers for today. Also, thank you so much, everyone that has been tuning in. Those that have asked the questions, we really appreciate you coming in and actually having the courage to seek assistance in what you're dealing with, and also giving the opportunities for those that weren't able to speak or ask a question to get their questions answered if it was the same. This next question is from a number 7. I'll leave this to a number 7, age 24. It's a female. How do I find a career path that works best for me? My passion is health and beauty and finances, but I went through something that paused my education.
So I'll jump in as a number 7. One of the, because you can sort of do everything, which is conundrum, everything comes back to the, paradox in life. You're really good at everything, so, it's, there, I would say 1, there's no rush, and 2, you're already doing it. which is like great. Of course, one of the ways that you can get just like specific is to go on the Secret Energy. Let me do this plug. Go in the Secret Energy and look under the 7 path, and then it lists all of the. You can find out what would be your interest. But even that will also still get you into because there's a lot of things that you can do, is to really see what it is that you're doing now and how it affects your heart and how you feel about it. And, in terms of where you are at. And one of the things that I found for me is that it sort of doesn't matter what it is that I'm doing. As long as it's in balance, because there tends to be, because again, I can, I'm a multitasker. I can do a lot of things all at once. I have a tendency to overwork. So, is to do it in balance with everything. So definitely go into the Secret Energy website and see the paths. They are jobs listed. Wholeness.
I also just wanted to add to the comment about education. And education takes many forms, right? We have a formal education system, right? That program that a lot of us undertake, myself included. And we can really just educate ourselves to death, right? You can always keep getting more and more education. And, the key really comes to the embodiment of the knowledge, which is really what we're all doing right now, right? We're embodying these numbers and learning about it. So this is education and training in and of itself. So I guess I just want to speak to it. Sounds like you were feeling like you got a little sidelined perhaps, or something kind of wasn't unfolding exactly the way that you intended. And I just encourage you to open up, right? The whole world right now is not anything that any of us, thought it would look like. So education does take many forms. Don't get discouraged if one path one door seems to close for you, then another one's going to be open, maybe several at any time. So there are many, many online resources. Definitely look around your community for mentors, and just open up to what type of training and skills you really need at the moment, and start there.
Wonderful. I wanted to add to that. On the seventh path, you're going to deal with a lot of failures, and you have to be okay with that. That's part of the journey. It's about experience. You know what I'm saying? And so I've dealt with failure countless amount of times. And even being a 7, one of the occupations, and I would encourage you to go ahead and enroll in the genealogy for further explanation. But even with the 7, one of the occupations is a small business owner. You said you like finance or whatever. You as a 7, you have the power to manifest your experiences the way that you want to. You know what I mean? You're very spiritual. So if you want to set yourself up to go into finance or beauty or health or whatever, then manifest those experiences for you to go in, and do that. But keep an open heart, keep an open mind, and don't give up, because that's just a part of the path of being a 7 is failure. But the failure sets us up for success. I always say this, when I hit my low was when I actually hit my peak. And you have to know when you hit your peak. You know what I mean? Those lows is when you find a lot of power. So, don't forget that as a 7, it's a gift to be a 7, it's a gift.
Beautiful. We have 2 questions left. I'm going to go ahead and go with one of the final questions. This is from Path 1. It's a female that is asking, when becoming sovereign, is it best to practice celibacy? Do you satisfy your desires or direct that energy someplace else until you meet a partner to be sacred with? This is the question from a Path 1.
Definitely an important part of the journey to move into that celibate stage and out of that celibate stage, and energy is fuel, right? So I found some of Mantek Chia's work to be very resourceful and supporting in tapping into your own energy field and learning how to channel that energy, and also seeing that energy in and of itself is manifestation energy. It's pranic energy. You can put it out into the field and send it back in, right? So again, if that's the journey you're on in the sovereign journey, then that's a beautiful and a lifelong journey to start to master the multidimensional experience that we all have. So safe travels, enjoy.
Especially being the sun, being a 1, that you shine, you give, so now you have to practice sort of receiving. You have to practice kind of going into the state of silence, going into the state of, self-direction, and fasting from certain things. So I would definitely agree with Ali. Take your time in that process, and good luck on that journey.
Oh, this so designed to fly with energy high, leading the way with an impulsive eye. That's that flow of the 1. So, as you build up this energy, until you want to share with someone or share with self, it will be more magnetic, more clear. And whenever you decide to share that with anyone, just know that as you go on this path, the magnitude of energy that you continue to build up will attract the things on that frequency, on that level, and because you're clear, you've gone in, you've been doing this practice, you can see it as if you want to share the energy with that particular person or whatever the energy is, that it will come to you, and it'll be that much more on point because you build up that energy and use discernment and engaging with anything external from yourself. But you're a dynamo.
Because the karmic lesson for number 1s is renunciation. And so when they renunciate anything, they get more power within. And so the art of surrender is the art of their internal power for them to shine.
Wholeness. We have one final question here. It's one of those last but not least. It's from number 5 with destiny of an 8 female. She's asking, how can we end telepathy? In this case, I have a telepathic connection with someone that I guess they're saying that they have a telepathic connection with someone that they don't desire. And I remember us getting into this a little bit, probably not last week, maybe the week before, but in relation to, clearing the space and clearing out energies. I will answer that very briefly, just in what we learned from the Mamos, which was really interesting, and what they said about this particular subject, especially in relation to a female, that it would be great to visit spaces where you may have shared connection with this person, and to close that space. And this was their personal advice about things that we need to do, because we actually, in this time, have so many intimate connections with so many different people. And this wasn't really something that was shined on in the past, because of how deep we can entwine and connect with others, especially if we do so sexually. And so they mentioned that it would be great and instrumental for you to revisit these places, and to actually dissolve those spaces and begin to close out that connection, if that makes sense. Leave that open for anyone else that wants to give any extra advice for a 5 about how to stop even the telepathic, because I guess what they're saying is that they do feel a somewhat of a mental informational connection with the person, and a feeling, even, of course, connection with the person.
I'll speak to that. I deal with a lot of 5s, and they're the masters of the communication. So that's another form of communication, is telepathy. You know what I'm saying? So you have the power to go in and tap in and be like, okay, you know what? I need to shut this off somehow. A lot of things are internal, for a 5 as well. So to shut that off, to analyze, why is it that I have this telepathic communication with this person, and to dive deep into that. And why do you really, really want to shut it off? You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. It's like, it's a gift to have telepathy with someone. So why do you really, really want to shut it off? It's like, think those analytical questions of a 5. You know what I mean? And how can you transmute the energy? And not manipulate the energy, but how can you transmute the energy and to make it more beneficial for both of you? Because it is a spiritual thing, so to analyze it from that angle as well, because not everybody has a gift to be telepathic for somebody. So try to work through those barriers and things of that nature, if you may. So give thanks.
Yes, I'm a destiny number 5, and I'm very telepathic. And what I find is, when I move into my joy or do something that I'm feeling joyous about, and I don't want to have that particular telepathic connection with whoever I don't want to have a connection with, it's like I'm so engrossed in my own joy and my own inner communication with self that that energy just dissipates, because I've raised my own vibration. So, yeah, wholeness.
Definitely, yeah, sister. What you just said, and it was mentioned in one of the practices within the university how you're connected, telepathically, but you have that invisible line tying you to anything that you gave your heart to. Raise that path with that, and how to imagine that you're cutting those cords, and anything that's supposed to be there, it's going to be there anyway, because all is up. So cut those initial things that giving you that tether, and imagine Bushido blade, swords, force field blades. Use your imagination, cut those spaces, and go into that joy which Niva just spoke of. But that's then amplifying your frequency, so that your bandwidth is a little stronger, and it blocks out anything that doesn't serve you in that particular moment. But telepath, it can be, that paradox. That, I love it, and it's not an ability, but it can be overbearing when you like feeling things maybe coming out of nowhere, seemingly, and you follow that cord to see, it's coming from this person, and then doing those practices to bring it back in. So again, thank you for that, Sister, too. Right on expressing that joyous part of self.
Also, real quickly, everyone that comes into your orbit is a teacher for you. So if someone comes in and they're so attached really ask yourself that question. What is it that you're trying to teach me? What is it that I need to learn? You still need your discernment and know when to cut off, of course. But, examine, definitely examine yourself, because you're a communicator. So being telepathically connected to someone would be natural for you. So why would you want to go against that? So, always self-discovery.
And that's what we have today, amazing beings. It is now an opportunity for you to go forward with more awareness of yourself. I'm here with the Keymakers. As I say, we do what we can to make sure that we do what we must. All is self. And as we keep getting stronger and gaining more momentum and solidifying our foundation together, we look forward to all of the amazing things that we will continuously learn together. And also just in awareness of our co-collective and co-creations, how we feel about each other, that energy, even that information, that knowledge, that wisdom, that DNA is always there. Even the path that we set in our meditations, these foundations are all solid, and they're what we use at every single moment to fortify ourselves in this experience. Let someone know about the Keymakers. If you are just tuning in and this is your first time hearing this, maybe you even have some great fun to have by exploring more about yourself. As we mentioned, there is going to be the information of everyone here on the show inside the description. So if you want to check anyone out, you can do so. We'll be forward again next Sunday for episode 5, if that's how things are supposed to roll. And until then, we just say go inside, because that's where you'll meet us all. In your heart, we're all connected. And as we continuously perfect ourselves internally, which means whatever is perfect to us, that's what we project externally, and that's how we do things. So, Wholeness and Balance Vibrations Tribe, thank you so much again for this time and opportunity to connect into the space. Wholeness.